So, Malcolm, what can you tell me about the exploration of Kirk Bank?
Well, I think that area of Wharfedale up there is just is really, really beautiful area of the Dales. And just round Buckden, you've got those lovely old woodlands. And I think for many people, you ask them what's one of their favourite caves in the Dale, Birksfeld Cave comes up as a really, really good trip. And so we were always interested in looking at the little sinks that were around that area, sort of up and down valley from Birksfell. And Kirk Bank leapt out at us really as a place, a sink taking a decent stream that had been pushed to this drafting bedding. I can't remember who had done the original exploration, but we went and is just looking it up.
Upper Wharfedale Fell Rescue Association.
Upper Wharfedale Fell Rescue Association did the first exploration of it. And it's beautifully located just up valley of Birksfell in a lovely wood between Buckden and Hubberholme, which I'm sure there's no public access to at all, quite frankly. But we went up there and Kirk Bank, for me, is all about really lovely sunny days in the summer, and the beech woods being out with the light green leaves. And we went out to look at this cave, got down to the bottom to this bedding plane at the end, and it was clear that this bedding plane, which was a flooded bedding plane, quite wide, was drafting really strongly. This is a decent stream with a lot of limestone underneath it. It's just an obvious prime target that needed some more action, really. And over that first summer, I think we did a couple of trips, and the deal was you'd get to the bottom of the cave, which didn't take you very long. It's like 20 minutes caving, and wriggle into this bedding plane. And the bedding plane was quite wide, and the airspace was really limited. But the roof was completely smooth. I don't know why it was so smooth, but the roof was really smooth. And they were called digging trips, but it was a really weird variety of digging. You'd get wetsuit hood on, take your helmet off because there wasn't space for your helmet, and you wouldn't carry a light. And you'd wriggle in one by one on your back into this bedding plane with your nose pressed against this roof. And it was literally your nose pressed against the roof, and after several digging trips in there, you'd get a little abrasion on the end of your nose. You'd have a scab during the rest of the week from wriggling down this thing. And the way you'd dig is you'd sort of float in on your back until the cobbles rose up so you couldn't wriggle any further, and then you kick away at the cobbles with your feet to loose them up a little bit, and then wriggle down a little bit further so you could then use your hands like sort of paddles to scoop the broken up cobbles to one side, and you're kind of dredging a trench. And you'd get this feeling, once you'd done it enough, the water would flood into where the cobbles would used to be, and you'd feel yourself a little bit more buoyant, but then you knew you could move wriggle another inch or two down the passage. And again, we were quite spooked by it, because it felt that the airspace was so limited that you had to make sure you chose exactly the right way back to get back out to the end where your mates were waiting. And it didn't seem to be completely a straight line. So for reassurance, we'd be tugging a rope with us. I don't know quite why we thought that would help, to be honest, but like some notion of diving line. So you felt that as you came back, you were following something to get back to the proper airspace. And there was this guy who I think he was doing an MSc. He was there for a year. He was a Dutch chap, Fjord Postma. And he was really into this, digging in this cave, and thought, what a bizarre sort of life this guy, what a bizarre turn this guy's life has taken. He's come to a university in England to study whatever it was he's studying, I can't remember, but actually become really keen on digging in an obscure part of the Yorkshire Dales. But Shord, he was a big lad, big strong lad, and he could just sort of stay in the water for a lot longer before freezing than anybody else. And so just at the end of that summer, and unfortunately just before he was about to finish his year on his MSc, he kicked his foot through, and he could feel that he could lift his foot completely up on the other side. The roof had risen. But we worked all day that day, and we just couldn't get it to go through any further, and we ran out of time. And got no further that year, and Sjord went back to Holland. And, of course, it was still in our minds, and we went back the next year. And over the course of, I think, another 2 trips, we managed to dig the bedding back out again, because it all filled up over the winter. And I managed to wriggle through into the little air belly thing that Sjord had detected. So I wriggled through into that. But I had absolutely no idea where I was because I didn't have a light. So Hogan, we had this rope, as I say, pulled through, and I asked for my head torch to be attached to the end of the rope, and I pulled my electric, it was an lead acid electric, through, and I could see, oh, look, and there was clearly a way on underneath this air bell, and that only took a tiny bit of digging, and I was through into open going streamway. And of course it was Madeline Price and Hogan, Keith Hobley were really keen to get through, and Hogan came through really quickly afterwards, again with a head torch that he was just dragging behind him. So the first bit of the exploration of Kirk Bank Cave took place with us with our head torches with our headsets for our electrics in our mouths, because we had no other way of carrying them, and you needed your hands for moving. And Hogan and I went on long enough to establish that it was clearly a going streamway, and so we went back to the dock. And quite frankly, Madeline just thought we were taking the piss. She thought it was like, so many years of caving with ulcer, crawling down grotty little passages that went nowhere. She really took she just thought we were just winding her up, just trying to get her to go through the duck for no good reason. But she went, oh, yeah, I'll come through, yeah, there's an open streamway, yeah. And she came through, and then, God, there actually is an open streamway here. And we followed that downstream. There was a pitch, about 10 metre pitch that we managed to free climb, and dropped into a nice chamber. And then this really nice bit of Vados Yorkshire pothole streamway, which we called the Warpway. Everything was Kirk inspired. Massively exciting to find a stream cave like that, and just thinking, oh, this could go for, it could go as deep as Burke's Fell. There could be 6 or 7 really exciting, well-watered pitches down here. And we followed it downstream. We came to a boulder collapse, which, oh no, it's going to peter out in this boulder collapse. But we found a climb that went through a dry, muddy upper level. We call that climb the Trouble with Tribbles. And then dropped down the other side of that to another pitch, much shorter pitch this time, but much harder you couldn't free climb it, so we'd free climb the first one. On this one we had to tie our belay belts together to give some kind of hand line down it, and a very dodgy anchor point, and drop down there. But unfortunately, only 150 foot so after that, it sumped. So that was the bottom of Kirk Bank Cave, which was disappointing really, because it still perched a long way above its resurgence. And then I came out, and there's no difficulty in managing to, because this was just the time that also was developing a new wave of cave divers. Okay. So it was post the Julian Griffiths Dave Yandel kind of cave diving era, and so people like Dave Brock, Kev Little, Adrian Mellor, those kind of people were getting into diving, and so we managed to persuade Dave Brock to come and dive it, but in the enthusiasm of explorers, we'd vastly exaggerated, not intentionally, but kind of unintentionally exaggerated the size of the sump pool. And it's like, how big's the sump pool? Well, it's probably 10 foot round and completely out of depth. And Dave was, will I need my fins? Oh yes, you'll definitely need fins and a pair of 50s. And so we assembled at Kirk Bank and dragged all this kit down the cave. Not everybody managed to get through the duct, but Dave did, and enough people to carry. And Dave made a sterling job, because Dave at the time wasn't the slimmest caver in the world. He'd take a good long time to excavate a channel suitable for ocean-going shipping to enable him to get through. And when he got to the sump pool, he was so disappointed, because it was just a tiny little sump in a narrow rift. So he kitted up. Didn't put his fins on, oddly. Wished he'd brought his small line reel rather than the one loaded with 100 metres of line. And wriggled sideways, clanking along this rift for about 25 metres or something like that. And he came out and said, I can't make it go any further. And I was just trying to get into cave diving at the time, so I put on the kit as well and did the same thing, and thought it was just horrible and very, very frightening and very narrow and with all kinds of projections on the walls. Wasn't at all keen on it. So that was it for the diving. Although we tried, maybe a year or so later, John Bonwick also had a go at it and didn't get any further. So that was the end of Kirk Bank Cave, rather sadly.